What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Beyond the 90. We've got another video for you. Hopefully, you've been looking forward to this one. I've been doing a lot of research into this. Abdul Fatawu coming to Leicester City. It's been in the works for quite a while. The reason why this is late is I'll get to you in a second. We've got a journalist from Ghana that I've been working very hard to get on over the coming weeks. We've been desperate to get him on, and Owuraku has been fantastic enough to come on. We'll play his bit of the video. I've got the full podcast coming out next week, but just to let you know, we're going to go over the history of him, what he's done for Ghana, his successes, and how he thinks Enzim Rest is going to get the best out of him as well. So I want to play the video right now. We'll come back afterwards and we'll do some analysis after that. I want to get your thoughts on one of our latest signings. So Abdul Fatawu, in terms of him, first of all, in terms of how he started with his time at Steadfast and Dreams, how has he progressed, and what kind of player can Leicester fans expect?
Well, I think you're going to get a really talented player who has a very high ceiling with regards to his development, has a lot of potential, but the question mark has always been whether he can reach the heights that he has established himself that he could potentially reach. Now, if you look at his story, it's a very nice touch of a more or less like a motivational type of story, where a few years ago he was playing at what we call the Milo Games, and that's a game usually organized for young footballers all across the country. And for a few years back, it's been more or less like a talent hub for and an opening, a platform for a lot of young players to get access to clubs and opportunities to be seen and all that. So Fatawu was one of the kids, played under 15, and then he joined Division 1 side, Steadfast. They play in the northern part of Ghana, and he caught the eye there where he was known for his very venomous left foot, where he could basically just shoot from anywhere and score goals. And he started making a name for himself throughout the Division 1. And then he went on the Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations with the Ghana team, where it was his tournament where he scored the goal of the tournament. He was adjudged as the best player as well, and was very crucial in providing an assist in the final. So that, I would say, that was more or less like the springboard and the turning point for Fatawu, where after that tournament he joined Dreams FC for just a few weeks, and in those weeks he was the talk of town in the Ghana Premier League, where every week he was scoring either a cracker or a very lovely goal. I remember one against Asante Kotoko where he just wriggled through defenders and placed the ball beautifully into the back of the net. And so he left the country with a lot of maybe weight on his shoulders, because the expectations were really high. His growth was accelerated after that. We saw him being included in the national team, that's the Black Stars, and he ended up going to the World Cup, joined Sporting, where things didn't go as planned. But I still think that it's not been too bad of a hit with regards to his stay at Sporting, where I think he still has it in him to get back on track and reach the potential that everyone set out for him.
Fantastic, yeah. Because again, there's something that we've seen just from the brief plays. But what do you think the reason why Club Sporting Portugal it didn't work? Is that because of, again, he didn't fit the system? From what we've read as well, he just fell out of favour because they don't really play with wingers.
Yeah, so it's a tricky situation, because the thing is he attracted a lot of European clubs after that Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations that he did so well. And it was widely reported that Liverpool were going to sign him, and Sporting literally came from nowhere and wrapped up the deal. I remember even at a point, everyone thought he was going to go to Bayern Leverkusen after Liverpool didn't work out, but Sporting came in, they soaked him. And the thing with Sporting is that they understood that he was a young player, needed to adapt to the European style of play, because even in Ghana, he hadn't played enough top-level games. And so they started with the youth teams, where he kind of progressed really quickly, because the technical team saw him in a few games and thought he deserves to go to a higher level. So he kept on being pushed since joining in that's the winter transfer window. And, the story came out that he was going to join the first team for the next season. And so for preseason, I thought that was the biggest mistake, because the fast track was a bit too much for the player, where he jumped right from, the U teams to the A team, where it's a really different scenario and situation, especially playing in Europe and all that. And I think that sort of took a hit to his assimilation and adaptation period, and ended up affecting the player because he was in a team where he was struggling to settle. He had just come into a new country. There's also that language barrier. And then there's Ruben Amorim, who is a very tactically astute coach, demands a lot from his players, and would really watch the game to the finest details. And if you look at Fatawu, he's more or less like a work in progress. He's more or less like a work in progress, where he's still working on aspects of his game. And so I remember in the first few games, he was tried as a left wing back, and that is not his strongest position. And, Amorim just kept on tossing him around the team. And if you could realize, even last season, whenever he dropped from the A team, you look at the youth league, he came in against Ajax and he scored a hat trick. And it was so evident that that was his level at the moment. But right after that hat trick, Amorim brought him back into the A team. And because of that, he couldn't play in the youth league anymore. And so it was a bit of a confusing move from Amorim. But I just genuinely believe that it didn't work out as Sporting due to a number of factors, the environment and how he was fast-tracked and all that. But I think a loan move, change of environment was the right thing for him. He's still a young player. And as I said earlier, he can always bounce back to the level that was expected of him.
Fantastic. Yeah, and I'm hoping so as well. And he's looked fantastic. Again, 30 minutes that we've seen of him, he's looked fantastic. I know you tweeted about the left foot strike. Is that what we can expect going forward? Because that little moment, even though in that first half he's coming up against some really tough people in the winger position, he came on and he really stamped his mark on that game, even if we didn't score or didn't win.
Yeah, I think that's what you can expect from him. A bit of spontaneity, because he's very direct, because he's still in his raw form. He's not measured in risk taken. And so if he sees 2-3 defenders, he's trying to go through them and get an opportunity in there. And so that there's a little bit of a benefit to that, because he's a high risk type of player, would always want to try and make things work, even if, the team as a collective is not playing well. So I think you get a lot of brilliant, flashy moments from him, although the question marks also are around the consistency, and can he be more measured in his approach? And that, I think, has been the biggest critique of him, especially when he moved to the national team. The thing about Fatawu is that he knows he has a great left foot and can literally score from anywhere if you take a look at his highlight reel. But in professional football, you need to know when to pass and when to shoot. And I think even in the game against Hull, he was taking shots from some very incredible angles that didn't go too well. And so it's almost like there are two sides to the coin, where he may score some incredible goals, but he would also frustrate you a bit with some of the decisions that he makes. But the thing is that he's a young player, very energetic, and I think his positives outweigh his negatives. So I do think he would be a net positive for Leicester going forward in this season.
I'm hoping so as well. And I think he's going to be, again, a player that we're looking to develop. When our coach in terms of Enzo Maresca is known for bringing up youth teams as well. So in your opinion, do you think, especially Leicester being in the ambition to get back to the Premier League, in the Championship, in a good position at the moment, do you think it's the right move for him?
It's a bit tricky, because I think I rate the Championship really highly. I think it's probably in the top 10, top 12 European leagues. And that's comparing it to other first divisions across the continent. And so I think it's a very, very tough league, and that is manifested in the prize money that you do get when you do win. And I think that contributes to how much clubs invest in their resources, the players, and also the level of competition and all that. So it's a different landscape for him. Maybe he'll play to his advantage, because I think it's probably a very physical league, something that he's very used to from his time in Ghana. And so that could play to his benefits. But from the point of view of Leicester City, you're looking at a club that have had some success in English football and have dropped a level to where they feel they don't belong. And so there's that form of added pressure, because for clubs like Leicester City, they want to get back to the Premier League as soon as possible. And so there isn't really a lot of room for patience. And so Fatawu needs to hit the ground running, needs to start getting the numbers, needs to start being efficient, because this isn't a project, it's a loan move. They brought you here because they want to get back into the Premier League. So you're supposed to contribute to that. But there's also a player who's trying to find his feet in Europe, has had a very bad time in Sporting, and probably needs to settle a bit. So there's a bit of a contrast with the expectations from the two parties, that's Leicester City and Fatawu. But I think there may be a middle ground where Maresca will probably ease him in. He understands the situation. Fatawu kept on hammering on the fact that he's spoken to Maresca, and he's one of the reasons why he actually joined Leicester. So I assume he has a plan for him. He understands the situation and probably would help him adapt to the Championship a bit better.
And that's one. I'm glad you say that, because again, Enzo's been, for our signings this season, Enzo's been a massive part and has come to the focal point of that as well. And obviously, he's played as a left. He's played on the right with his left foot. He's so powerful. Is there the option of playing on the left as well? Because again, we do have cover, but why would it not be his favorite position if he's more left-footed?
Well, it's one of his strengths, coming in off the right flank and shooting. Is if you look at most of the goals that he scored, even the first goal that he scored for the Black Stars against Nicaragua last year before the World Cup, it was a similar situation where he cut into his left foot from the right wing, and then he played the ball into the net to get his first goal for the Black Stars. So I think that's more or less his niche, what he knows how to do. And so once you move him from the right wing to the left wing, it's almost like you've taken his biggest strength from him. And so as a player, it kind of limits him, because now he's forced to go down the line and put in a cross, which is not his biggest strength. I think it's one of the areas that he has to work on with regards to picking his final passes and crossing. And so maybe that could be to help develop him. But as I said, Leicester are after results now. And so if they do want the now, then they have to tap into a strength, which is cutting in from the right wing and shooting. But I did realize that in the game against Hull, there were times that he actually went on the outside of his marker and put in some crosses with his right. That, for me, impressed me a lot, because that's one of the things that he wasn't doing, especially with the national team. Everyone knows he's left-footed, and he always wanted to cut in on his left foot, and he was making him a bit predictable at times. But seeing him go on the outside and use his right foot, which he was reluctant to use, shows that at least he's trying to improve and trying to work on some aspect of his weaknesses.
Just want to say thank you so much for Owuraku for coming on. His link will be the top one to Twitter if you want to go say thank you for coming on. We've greatly appreciated. I loved his insight. But we're going to continue now and do some more insight into some of the players. We saw him a little bit. I'm going to analyze the game that he had against Hull. I'm going to analyze some of his statistics versus Yunus Akgun. There's not a lot of information, but I'm going to try and piece together, and then you'll have some of my thoughts at the end. Let's get into it. So normally when we do this, we don't see the player play, because we normally saw him in the summer and we've not played our first game yet. We've actually seen Fatawu play for 37 minutes, and that was against Hull. So again, we lost 1-0. Again, you can see towards the end we had possession in terms of that as well. But just want to come on and compare him to Yunus and how he played against the game. So I know this isn't the 3-2-4-1 we normally set up with. It says 3-4-3. It's the closest thing we've got at the moment. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some interesting things here. So Yunus started the game, Yunus Akgun. And in terms of that, if I bring up you can see his average positioning, which was, again, played for about 54 minutes before there was a triple substitution, which I thought was brave. Anyway, come on to that. We'll come on to that. If you want more of that information, go check out our post-match with Mike. Again, thanks for Mike coming on. For this one, you can see that Yunus mostly stuck to this right-hand side. He did track back. That's what I found interesting. He did track back. He played it simple. He kept the ball moving. He didn't light up like he did more against Tranmere, but I was really happy with him the way he started. But Enzo made some substitutions and brought on Fatawu at the same time. After again, he played 36 minutes. So comparing the two statistics in terms of this, I think it's an interesting thing to look at. So let me just get this up. So in terms of Yunus, again, he mostly stuck to this right wing spot. Came in occasionally, but then a lot of his work was doing back this way. But he stuck to this right hand spot, right on the touchline, as we've been talking about before. We've seen the wingers are trying to stretch the pitch, and that's exactly what Yunus was coming on and doing. When Fatawu came on, we upped our levels. The guy looks raw, he looks talented, as Owuraku was mentioning, but we can see something slightly different here. He was coming more to that right-hand side and getting crosses in. As Owuraku was mentioning, this is something that he didn't do before. They've not seen a different side of him. And bearing in mind, he's only been training with the squad until that point for less than a week. So it's really, really great to see. He was more going this right side, and also he came cuts on the inside and then was taking shots. So he's trying to play the balls into different people. He's trying to be less selfish. And just from this, I know we can't tell much because it's only been 30 minutes, but I'm really excited for him. And the fact that we've got both of these in contention for one spot, for me, is a fantastic problem to have. And the next thing we've got is comparing the two of them together. So I've compared Fatawu to Akgun, comparing the both of them together. So in terms of this, it's not going to tell you too much differently, but I'll compare them both because they're both going to be playing on that right-hand side. And they're both, you think about it, with how young Fatawu is, and also Yunus is young as well, 23 years old. But going to compare them side by side, they do have different profiles of players. If you want a full analysis of Yunus Akgun, make sure to check out my analysis that's come out on the channel as well. But in terms of this one, we've got, again, Yunus Akgun. So, again, both left-footed, both right wingers. So they both play, if I just screw it down this way, similar positions. But as you can tell a little bit more, he mostly sticks on that right-hand side, Yunus does, and Fatawu does more the left-hand side, where he will play against centre mid on one left side, and again potentially the mid right for Akgun. So it's interesting because they both offer something different. I think one offers raw pace and raw power. One of them offers a little bit more technical edges as well. I think both again are going to be flying for Leicester. I'm really hoping that both of them kick on because we're waiting for a winger for ages and we've got three in one go, which is great. Let's get into some of the other statistics as well. So rankings and things like that at the moment. I'm not going to get into reading too much of this and look into that at the moment. He started for the national team. He got more caps with Turkey, but Ghana is actually joined up with Ghana at the moment of time of recording as well. But again, these statistics don't tell us a lot much. I think the most interesting for me for this one was these two. The fact that they can potentially play in the cam position, but we know that Enzo doesn't really play there, especially when you've got Cassadine, you've got KDH, and you've got Pratt when he comes back from injury. They're going to be bursting into the run. So they're both going to be able to take on the player. But what I've found interesting, as we mentioned in the last one, Yunus is more likely to try and cut inside, while Fatawu will go try and cut in and shoot from that left-hand side and come round and get the cross in, which I thought was quite interesting. So there we have it. Abdul Fatawu, full analysis. Hopefully you've learned a little bit from it. I definitely have from the likes of Owuraku, and I thought he was fantastic on that as well. So yeah, maybe the full podcast will be coming out later next week. But in terms of my final thoughts, I'm really excited by him. He's going to take time. He's still very raw talent, but I think there's a lot to get excited about. And the trust is with Enzo. Owuraku mentioned that Enzo asked for him specifically. Here's my plans, as he's been doing with pretty much every player we've got in now. Every player of the journalists that we speak to, or I end up hearing about, says that Enzo was a big part of him joining. So from his introduction, he said he's very happy. Again, he can play on that right flank with his left foot. And I think he will adapt to that system quite well. We're going to miss him when he goes to the African Cup of Nations, bearing in mind, because he'll play on that right side and he'll probably go with Ghana. And as Owuraku was mentioning as well, the fact that he's going to go in that position, there's quite a bit of competition. The fact that we're going to play 2 games a week not from now, but in a couple of games time, will give the squad the opportunity to rotate. It will give Fatawu the opportunity to go, right, have a go, see what you can do. And then if not, we can change it. We've got still Marcel can play in that position as well. Again, he is more likely a left winger, as we've seen in pre-season, and he operates better off the left. However, he can play that as well. I think that competition for space is something we've lacked. Marco Brighton is now 5th choice winger, which is incredible, considering he's always been a faithful servant, and Enzo has praised him no amount. But the fact that he's 5th winger, for years he's been 2nd choice, 3rd choice, potentially starting a lot of games, especially under Brendan. He was starting some of the games towards the end. And now we've got a player in Fatawu who I'm so excited about. His ceiling is very high, but this is another test for Enzo. I think the ceiling, the potential is right up there. This will show Enzo what he's made of. You look at what Enzo did for that under-23s team for Man City, and you look at Cole Palmer has gone for 45 million to Chelsea. That they turn players into better players, and Enzo's a massive part of that. Now, only time will tell if he's a success or not. I'm really hoping that any player joins will be a success at Leicester. We've got a really good feeling about this something. And for once, it's really great to get excited about. Not only we bring in one, we brought in 3 wingers in a window. That is unheard of. Absolutely unheard of. So, again, just wanted to get that. Again, really appreciate everybody for watching it all the way through. If you want to like, subscribe, we'd be really appreciative of that. We've got a Tom Cannon video coming soon. We've also got a video with Owuraku for it's about 17 minutes interview. Really hard to get that changed in as well. Apart from that, I'll see you all in the next video. So goodbye.